Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm going to define the term intrusive home inspection. Okay, that was a bold statement. I should probably back it off. I can't define what an intrusive inspection is for the entire country. I can only talk about Minnesota. Here in Minnesota, when someone is getting a home inspection, it's usually part of a real estate transaction. And for just about every real estate transaction that you have here in Minnesota, when you got one person buying a house from another person, they use a standard form. It's been used here in Minnesota. We've had the same form since 2016. It's published by the Minnesota Realtors Association. They all look the same. Standard language. There's a section in the form where it talks about inspections, and it asks the question, is the buyer going to get a home inspection? Is the sale of the home going to be contingent upon the home inspection? Is this inspection going to be intrusive? There's a special question on there, and they need to check a box either saying yes or no, it will or will not be intrusive. So that's where I'm getting the definition. I'm using it right out of the standard purchase agreement used for real estate. I'd love to say here is the home inspection standard of practice definition for intrusive, but the word intrusive does not appear in the standard of practice for ASHI nor for InterNACHI. Those are the two big organizations that have national standards. We have no definition of intrusive. So I'm going to have to use the real estate definition, and I'm going to read it off to you. It's pretty simple. It says, for purposes of this purchase agreement, intrusive testing, now they say testing, intrusive testing shall be any testing, inspections, or investigations that changes the property from its original condition or otherwise damages the property. So it's where you change a property or you damage a property. That's intrusive. A lot of people get the idea that because you're moving something or you're going inside of something or you're putting a tool inside of something that's intrusive, but it definitely does not fit the definition, the real estate definition of intrusive testing. I'm going to repeat it. You need to change the property or you need to damage the property. That's intrusive. Now, every once in a while you get some incidental stuff, like let's say I'm walking up and I need to inspect the window and the shade is closed, and I grab the cord and I lift it up with one hand and I pull the cord gently with the other, but the frayed cord breaks. Did I just perform an intrusive inspection? I'd say no. I don't think that every time you damage something in a home or you change it, it's necessarily an intrusive inspection. There are exceptions. You can't have a single little line encompass every possible situation. And of course, I know you're asking, all right, now whose fault is that? Who broke the blind? I don't know. Those are the things that make being a home inspector tough. You grab a doorknob, you go to turn the knob, and it falls off in your hand. You're the last one who touched it. The home inspector gets blamed for it. These are the things that are not fun about being a home inspector. But at any rate, let me go over some common scenarios, some things that we do all the time that are not intrusive. We get accused of these things being intrusive, but they're not. So let me go over a list here. Number one, removing the panel cover on an electric panel. Removing the cover on an electric panel. Is that intrusive? No. We are not damaging anything. We are not changing anything. This is standard practice for home inspectors all over the country, with the exception of Rhode Island. They had some unfortunate legislation get passed this year, 2025, that said home inspectors can't take the panel covers off of the electric panels. Super goofy. Sorry, Rhode Island. Okay, next one. Removing an attic or a crawl space access panel to get inside there. And maybe you need to remove some screws or something like that. Is that intrusive? No, absolutely not. as long as we leave it the way that we found it. This is standard practice. Every home inspector ought to be doing this. Next one, a sewer inspection. This is where we put a camera into a sewer to inspect it. I've heard a number of real estate agents say, well, that's intrusive because, you're intruding inside the sewer. That's not what the definition says. This is not intrusive. The one possible exception, maybe a little asterisk, would be every once in a while we'll go to do a sewer inspection and the sewer access cover is just rusted in place. I mean, it's this old cast iron thing. There ain't no getting that thing off of there. I mean, we can beat at it all day. It's not coming off. And in those cases, we got to get a drill. We got to drill a hole through the middle of it, and then we got to get a saw and we got to cut it into little pie-shaped pieces and take it apart. Now we've changed the property because the next thing we do is we get a nice new plug. It's like this $15 real tight plug or something like that, and we install that, and now it's a nice tight fitting plug. It's easily removable. It's far superior to what was there previously, but technically we've changed the property. Now, if we performed an intrusive inspection, if someone really, really wants to split hairs, yes we have, but on the other hand, we've improved it. Nobody's ever going to look at this old cast iron thing and say, that looked a lot better than this new flat, slick, clean, black, tight-fitting plug that you installed. I mean, we're always improving it, and nobody has ever complained about this. But technically, if someone wanted to be a real jerk, they could say this was intrusive. But nobody's ever done that. Because what's the alternative? The alternative would be we go out to do a sewer inspection, we can't get at it, and we write it up and say we couldn't get the cover off, and now the seller and the buyer need to argue about getting a professional to come out there who's going to work on the property. They're going to have to pay someone to replace it, and then we're going to have another chip out to the property. I mean, it's time and money. Nobody wants to deal with it, and nobody cares. Nobody cares that we're changing it. So, all right, I beat that one to death. That's an asterisk. Next one, pulling back the carpet a couple of inches in the corner of a basement, of a finished basement, to look for water damage. Is that intrusive? No. We've been accused of this being intrusive, but it's not. We have not damaged anything. We have not changed anything. Now, if you're taking that carpet and you're destroying the carpet in the process, like you're ripping it, or you're pulling back several feet where the carpet now needs to be restretched, I'd say you have changed things. That's not cool. But if a home inspector is just going in the corner, they're pulling back a couple inches to look for water damage, no, that is not intrusive. Next one, pulling back vinyl siding to verify the presence of a water-resistive barrier, also known as a WRB, also known as Tyvek. It's not necessarily Tyvek. That's a certain product and it's a certain brand of product, but everybody just calls it Tyvek, whatever it is. And I'm not talking about dismantling the siding, not talking about taking it all apart. I'm talking about grabbing an edge and taking a little peek behind there, maybe shining your flashlight in there to see if there's a water-resistant barrier. Is that intrusive? Of course it's not. We do it all the time. We do it on every vinyl-sided house because it's very important to know if there's a water-resistant barrier behind there. Without, you will have a much higher potential for water damage, water intrusion, all kinds of stuff. Now, when we find it missing, it's not like we're going to tell someone, hey, you got to tear all your siding off and redo it all. We just tell them, look, you have an increased risk. This is what you're buying. I bought a house that didn't have one. I dealt with some water damage too. I would have bought it again though. Okay, next one. Removing a joist hanger nail to verify that it's the right length. Now, I've talked about this extensively. I've blogged about this many times and I've done videos on this. When you have a joist hanger that has cross shear nailing, which is basically all the joist hangers today, the nails need to go across each other like this. You can only use the big long nails. When they use the short nails, the nails don't do anything. They don't even come out the other side of the joist. They don't even touch the ledger. And to check for this, I will grab one nail. I will just choose one at random, and I'll take my pliers and I'll grab the head of the nail and I'll pull on it. Or I'll take my mini pry bar. It's a pry bar that's about this big, and I'll just try to pop the nail out. If the nail is wrong, it'll pop right out. If the nail is correct, it ain't going anywhere. It's staying right where it is. So we always check one nail on a deck to see if it pops out. If it does, it's the wrong nail, and it's not doing anything. It may as well not even be there because it is not supporting any load. So we pop the nail out, we check it. If it's wrong, we take a picture of it, and then we tap it back into place, and nobody will ever know which nail it was because it wasn't doing anything to start with. We've been accused of this being intrusive. Now, think this through. Have we changed the property? No. Have we damaged anything? No. Very simple. That is not an intrusive method. Next one. Lifting ceiling panels. You go in a finished, maybe I should say semi-finished basement, and they covered the ceiling with those drop ceiling panels. I like to joke that those ceiling panels were invented to hide electrical problems and mouse droppings, evidence of mice. Those are the two things that those panels were invented for. We usually find one of those two things by simply taking a panel, kind of pushing it up, taking a little peek above. Maybe if it comes up really easily, we'll just push it all the way up and we'll slide it to the side. Is that intrusive? Not as long as we can put it back together the way that it was. Now, home inspection standards of practice do not require home inspectors to do this, but we like to do it whenever we can. There are situations where I'll come to the panel and try pushing and I get a lot of resistance. It's like those panels are really tight. I know I'm not going to get it back together the way that it was, or I start pushing it up and I feel like there's something right above it. In that case, I'm not going to mess with it because I need to leave the house exactly the way that I found it. If there's going to be evidence that I was there, if I'm going to be breaking stuff, if I'm going to be scratching up those tiles, if I can't get them to drop back down, I could definitely be accused of doing an intrusive inspection because I damaged something or I didn't leave it the way that it was before. So, all right, I want to summarize, but it's too early. Let's go through a couple of scenarios that we would consider intrusive inspections. Number one, this is the most obvious one. This is like 95% of what I think of as intrusive, is stucco testing, also known as intrusive moisture testing. This is where we take a drill, we drill holes in the stucco, we stick a probe in there to check the water levels of the sheathing. Yeah, that's clearly intrusive, and we can only do this when a seller has given permission for intrusive testing. Number one, that's on their purchase agreement form, but number two, the seller needs to sign a special permission slip for us, the company doing this moisture testing, where we lay it all out. I mean, we describe our entire process. We tell them exactly what we're going to do, exactly how we're going to leave the property, and they need to have a clear understanding of all of this. If they sign off on that, then we'll do it. So that is the most obvious intrusive testing we would do. But let's just talk about a couple of others. I got like 2 or 3 more examples. How about opening a sealed attic access panel? Before I talked about an access panel that was screwed shut. Take the screws out, put them back in, or one that's not screwed shut, you just pop it up, drop it back down. That's fine. It's not intrusive, but if it's sealed shut, like if it's caulked, or if it's sprayed shut with sealing texture, or you've got a flat ceiling and it's all painted at the seam, is it intrusive if a home inspector has to break that seal? I would argue yes, unfortunately. And I hate saying that because it's so important for the home inspector to get up there. But the home inspector is going to have to change the property to get inside that attic. And what's kind of a contradiction here is on all of these purchase agreements, the standard thing is just check no. It's not going to be an intrusive inspection. But then there's also a line in Minnesota that says the seller is going to provide access to the attic and the crawl space. If the attic is sealed, they have not met their contractual obligations, I would argue. That's why when we show up to do a home inspection, it's one of the first things we look at. Is the attic accessible? And if not, is someone going to give us permission to get up there? And if it is sealed, we will quickly get on the phone or email or text the listing agent and we'll say, hey, we need to get in the attic. If you want us to, we'll do it. It might not look the same. This is kind of intrusive, but we'll do it. We just need written permission from you. And most of the time we get that written permission. But yeah, that would be intrusive. And something very similar to that would be opening up an electric panel usually on an old home where the cover has been painted about 30 times over the years, and you got this big, thick paint covering between the panel and the wall, and you can hardly distinguish where the wall ends and the panel begins. The home inspector would need to take a razor knife and cut all around it to get it open, and at some point as they're cutting, their knife is going to invariably slip and make a little scratch or a little gouge in the wall. I've done it myself many times. It's really tough to get that completely perfect. Is that intrusive? Yes. Same answer as the attic access panel. I would argue that is intrusive, and if a home inspector is going to be doing this, they should probably get permission. If nothing else, just to eliminate complaints on the back end. And then one more, this one I say a little tongue-in-cheek, is just removing anything that's nailed into place. Because you get it off, it's going to be impossible to get those nails to line up right. You're going to need to use a hammer to get it back into place. A wise home inspector once told me, whatever you think you're going to do at a home inspection with a hammer, you probably shouldn't do. A hammer is probably something that you should just leave at home if you're a home inspector. Can't think of any good reason to carry one around with you. And then, of course, anything you're going to be doing with a saw or a drill, it's probably going to be intrusive. Those are probably good tools for home inspectors to leave at home too. So basically, to sum this up, I already talked about what intrusive is. It's going to be where you change something or you damage something. But if a seller needs to look at a home inspector's report to figure out that a method was used, if that's the only way they know that a home inspector did something, I'd say it wasn't intrusive. They didn't change the property, they didn't damage anything. We've been accused of doing intrusive things many times when nothing has changed and nothing was damaged. If a seller gets home and it's real obvious that something was changed, that could arguably be intrusive. But like I said earlier, doing home inspections, things can get damaged. I gave the example of a doorknob falling off. I gave the example of blinds, the cords breaking, and a million other little things where it's like you touch it and it breaks. These things will incidentally happen, but if a home inspector is a good business person, they will deal with that. And it's not going to be a surprise for the sellers when they get home. Okay, this video was way longer than I had intended it to be. I hope I gave a little clarity around what's intrusive and what's not. I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections. Thank you for watching. Take care.